Hello, everybody. Welcome to the September Literally Dead Book Club discussion. Deja is unfortunately not with us today, but I don't know if I don't know why this sometimes happens. Sometimes the people pop out of the way, and sometimes the thing just covers your face. So I don't know if this is going to be a problem the entire. Yeah, it is. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I don't know if Deja read it though, or if there'll be like a review on her channel that you can check out. Of course, her link is down below, so you can go, support. I have my friends Ali and Sid here today, and we're gonna discuss The God of the Woods by Liz Moore with you. Oh hell yeah, we all have the book. Oh my gosh. Okay, just a heads up. I'm really sick, and if my brain just stops working for a couple seconds sometimes, that's just the way it is. Introductions. Okay, let's do introductions. If you want to tell me your name and your channel and a recent favorite like mystery thriller or horror book, just so we can get a gauge for your taste and decide if it's good or bad.
Damn.
I love to kick it off that way. And then Allie's going to get right into the synopsis of The God of the Woods because she is the newbie here, and we force the newbies to tell us what the books are about.
Well, I'm Allie, and I'm also sick, so sorry. My channel is All I Do Is Read, and recently I just read We Used to Live Here. I feel like everyone's been reading this. I give it 4.75. Had so much fun, an incredible amount of fun. And then I also recently read Monstrilio, 5 stars. Easy.
Okay, Allie's got taste, everybody.
Oh no. I'm so curious to see what everyone else has rated this though, so that's going to be interesting.
Okay. Yeah, same.
I'm Sydney. My channel is Sid Bookworm. I feel like I've been really bad at logging my reads the last 3 months. Sorry, I think that's Discord. Let me get rid of that if you can hear it. So sorry, doing great. I think my most recent mystery thriller that I've read and enjoyed is actually The Unmothers by Leslie Johnson. This was a dark horse for me. That's a pun intended. I hate myself. I don't know. I wasn't actively, because I was just part of a live show for this, and I liked it the most out of everybody. I think because it's marketed as like horror thriller, but it's more so like a mystery with light horror. So I think I was pleasantly surprised, but not everyone was. But I liked it. I feel like I'm a horse girl at heart. I'm a wannabe horse girl.
Is that the one where a lady gives birth to a horse, or a horse gives birth to a baby?
Gives birth to a human baby boy. And it's very much like folk horror. So there's this book made me realize that I love folk horror. So
I've seen it around. I don't think I've considered picking it up because I go back and forth with motherhood horror, if I like it or not. So interesting.
See, I was actually going to recommend it to you and say you might like it.
All right.
But I don't know. I was too scared to say that out loud.
Well, now I forced your hand.
Yeah.
While Allie tells us the synopsis of this one. Actually, wait, let me tell you my favorite recent horror because I don't have taste. It's Brat. Don't read it. Don't read it. It's not for everyone. It's
that makes me want to read it.
It's just a nasty little gross book that's I don't know if it's horror. I don't know what it is.
Nasty little
this
gross
is
book.
Not what the story is. This man, I bought this cover from the UK. I had it shipped over for so much money because I just loved the cover. This is not what the story is. Who is this? But it's just a gross man living in a house, and I don't know. But while Allie tells us the plot of The God of the Woods, attempts to tell us the plot, there's a lot going on. Good luck. You can tell me in the comments if you read it or not, because I saw some people DNFing it.
I saw that too. Okay, this is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. It is a mystery / family drama, and back in 1975, the daughter of this very rich family goes missing on a summer camp that the family owns. But to make it even juicier, the son of this family 14 years earlier also went missing. Sorry. And there's a lot of different timelines, and we learn more about the secrets of this family, and also of the town and the people who work for this family. Is that
great?
Okay.
Solid effort. Love it.
I was trying not to cough so bad.
Okay, so before we get into, because I see there's some people in the comments who haven't read it, so maybe they are waiting for us to tell them if they should. So let's get into our rating and then just a short explanation, spoiler free, as to why you gave it that rating.
Okay, should I go? Or
Go
you?
ahead. No,
Okay.
you go ahead.
I gave this, well, I finished it yesterday and I mostly read it yesterday, so it might change, but I gave it 4.25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it
Great.
could go down to a 4, maybe up to a 4.5 even. And it's really only for the writing style and the narration, the atmosphere. I love it in books where the narration is like, and Louise would think about this for the rest of her life. I eat that shit up. I love it. So yeah. There are flaws, which we will get into, but
Okay.
I told them backstage before we started. So I read this about a month ago. So I feel like I've had some extra time to think about it and also some time to forget about it. So I want to say that since it sat with me, I'm kind of leaning towards like a 3.5.
Okay.
3.5, maybe a 4 or a 3, depending on like what I focus on. Because I liked the writing. I love a slow burn. I love a summer camp. It had a lot of things going for it, but I do wish that it was a little bit more exciting and a little bit more creepy. Like I think I was expecting it to be a little bit more thrilling, more eerie, and I think, I mean, at its core, it was mismarketed. I mean, I feel like we'll all talk about that at some point, but that was a big part of it, I think, too.
You read this for your sorry. You read this for your own book club, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you give it that rating then, or did you like pause on your rating?
I think I started with a solid 4 at the beginning of my show. And then after discussing and being like, oh yeah, there are actually more things that, you know, get brought to light that I maybe didn't notice at first. And I think it's still been within the 3 to 4 range. So I'm gonna just call it a 3.5 until the end of this show, and we'll see if it changes again.
That's fair. What were you gonna say, Allie?
It's just funny because I was reading the synopsis on the page last night, and it says a thrilling drama unfolds, and I definitely would have to disagree with that. That was, I mean, it's not exactly thrilling. So
yeah, it's definitely like a family drama at its core. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think marketing wise, it was pitched a little bit differently. Also, I think there's something about the cover that, this might just be me, but to me, when I first saw this and didn't know anything about it, I thought, oh my God, there's a creature in the woods and it has pink blood.
Literally what I thought.
That's what I thought it was. And then I heard reviews about it. So that's why when I pitched this to the book club, I used very specific language. And I said multiple times in the announcement, this is a literary mystery. Don't expect anything exciting. Don't expect it to like go crazy. It's like if you like literary and if you like historical, then pick it up. And so I did see some people DNF it, which is fair. Some people say like, oh, this wasn't thrilling enough, which is fair for the book, but I tried so hard to pitch it. I tried so hard to pitch it well. My thoughts on it. Well, okay, like we're a mystery thriller horror book club, so that's like 3 genres, but there are like 20 genres, right? Like sometimes our thrillers are more like cozy, sometimes our horror is more supernatural, sometimes it's more suspenseful. Which, side note, we are reading like a fantasy horror for November, so if you don't like fantasy, I wouldn't recommend this one.
I'm so excited for that one.
Really, me too.
Yes.
I love that author, and I hope it goes well.
Me too.
But so this was a literary mystery, and I feel like I don't even know if we've done a literary mystery in the book club before. And I think that I was completely invested the entire time, and I ended up giving it a 4.25. We have the exact same rating. I feel like I could be talked down to a 4, and starting to read through the book club discussion on Goodreads last night, I did start to get talked down to a 4. But when I finished it, I was like, I like everything that it did. I appreciate what it was. It was different than a lot of things. And though it wasn't like wild and exciting, it still surprised me in multiple ways. So I'm excited for what it pulled off for me. And it looks like we have a real mix of ratings. I'm actually seeing everything from like a 2 to a 5. So I love it. I don't want to cover up Sydney's face too much, but everything is around here. So we're going to get into spoilers. So if you haven't read it, I don't know if that really helped you. Maybe it did, because like, from our perspective, it was a solid one. It's none of our absolute favorite book, but none of us like hated it. So
yeah, especially if you like a almost like, I don't know if character study is correct or not. I feel like I don't, but like slow burn for sure. Like I feel like it is a solid book, and I agree with everything that you're saying for sure, because it did a good job.
It's got a lot of like mundane activities, basically.
Yes.
That's a way I would help pitch it. It's like there's a lot of characters, but some of them like don't really matter. But that's what's interesting about it to me, is you don't know who matters.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, getting into spoilers. The book had a lot of characters. In fact, I wrote them all down while I was reading. There's 45 different names mentioned.
Oh my God.
And we had like a couple different timelines. So I just want to know from the get-go, how was your experience with that? Did you find it this is basically a moment for people to be able to rant in the comments, because I know a lot of people said it was confusing, and I feel really bad about that. How did you find the timelines and the characters?
I really liked it. I did read the physical copy, and I hear the audiobook was a little confusing for people because I think it was one narrator. But I really, really, really enjoyed getting all the different characters and going into all of their backgrounds and just the random characters in their lives that, like you said, have nothing to do with the story. Like Tracy's stepmom is like Donna Romana. I was like, every time her name came up,
she matters for sure. Nope.
Yeah, I loved it. I ate it up, and I got like, I felt closer to every single character because I knew so much about them. So I really liked that. Probably during the climax or like the last third of the book, I did notice that like they were changing at very strategic moments for like cliffhanger purposes. And I was like, okay, come on. You did that on purpose. But obviously someone wrote the book. So yeah, I really liked it.
I love how split the comments are. It's like, I loved it or I hated it.
I actually really liked like the writing and how she chose to do all the characters in different timelines. I love multi-timeline personally. I think if it's done well, multiple timeline can really be a great way to keep me intrigued and make me want to keep going. And mixing that in with multi-point of view, it also just like makes me want to get back to that person and see like where they're going to go from there. So again, if it's done well in an engaging way, which I think that this was done well, it made it even more exciting for me. Like it made me really want to keep reading and get to know the characters even more. Yeah, I think that I tandem read it. So I had the audiobook and I physically read it. So I like 100% would not have been able to follow it if I just listened to it on audio, because I think the headers, when it's like, it's all the years, but then it's highlighted, right? Of what sometimes of like what timeline we're in. Oh, not every time. Sometimes it's just 2 months later or whatever, things like that. But sometimes it looks like that. And like, that's hard to keep track of on just audio. So I would say if you are still here and considering picking it up, I would recommend a physical copy in some sort.
I've been really stingy. I've noticed with the mystery and thrillers that I've been picking up this year. I know that it's such like a trend right now that like popcorn thrillers are where it's at for everybody. They just want to like shut their brain off and just like experience it, just like wild and crazy stuff happening. They don't really have to pay attention. And I find myself really appreciating the slower, drawn out mysteries where I'm super paying attention and it's questioning my memory and it's keeping me really engaged. And I don't care that there's 100 different characters and half of them don't matter, because I like want to know everything about everyone. So I would say I loved how many timelines we got. Honestly, like the way that people spoke about it, I started taking really detailed notes from the very beginning, and I actually listened to this exclusively on audio, and I loved it that way. But it's because I was taking the notes, because this is my book club pick. So I was taking notes of every character and what they were doing and what they were saying in case it mattered later. And so I didn't find it confusing at any point, but I was expecting that by the way that people spoke about it, because there's so many characters. But really, There are ones that matter more, and I feel like you can start to tell which ones. And then there really are three main timelines. Like, it feels more confusing at the beginning than it is. There's the time where Alice and Peter are getting married and having a baby. There's the time where they have like a 4-year-old and he goes missing. There's time when they have a 13-year-old and she goes missing. That's really just the three things that are happening. It's not as confusing as I thought it was going to be. It was a little more straightforward than I thought. And I had a good time with that. I liked hopping around to all the different timelines. I traditionally love multiple timelines, so I think it was good for me. As far as all the characters, I have 2 questions about characters. Like, who intrigued you the most? Who do you think had the right amount of time spent with them, basically? And who do you wish we got to spend more time with? Who did you expect to matter more, maybe? So, who did you like, and then who did you want more time with?
I feel like a lot of the characters were really likable. I will say that. But I wish we got more TJ because I was intrigued most by her.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand now why we didn't, because she knew. Well, like, we can say spoilers, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, she knew what was going on. I have a
Mhm.
question about that. Can I kind of go off for a
Yeah,
sec?
sure.
Why was she like so against Barbara going to the camp if she was in on this? Because remember when Alice talks to her and she's like, Barbara wants to go to camp, and TJ is like, no, absolutely not. It's like, wasn't there?
Maybe
They make a
because
plan
she
after.
knew, did she maybe not want to lose her? And like she knew it would, well, she was going to lose her either way then.
Well, do we have answers to if TJ and Barbara had planned this before the camp began?
Oh, I
Or
actually
did
think they
they
planned it
decide it
during.
while she was there? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So maybe she didn't want her there just because, well, I don't know.
Valid question.
I thought about that last night as I was going to sleep. I was like, wait a minute.
Maybe
But
because she that it's like not a great place for people. Like, she knows all the things and all the counselors and all the things they're getting up to and how people are being abused, and like, there's stuff like she was already taking care of Louise at that point and protecting her from Jean Paul. So maybe she was just worried about Barbara getting into that environment, and also she
Yeah.
feels a certain protection for her, wanting to keep her just like with her family. That's the only thing I can think of.
But yeah, I really did like TJ. I wish we got more of her. But everyone else's whose point of view we got, like Tracy, Louise, Carl. I like Carl. And I'm trying to think. I feel like I'm glad we didn't get Barbara until the very end. I kind of wish we didn't even get her point of view at the end there. But it felt more mysterious, like everyone talking around her and about her.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that. It felt creepier. I don't know.
This makes sense to me. Maybe she did want her to come. She just didn't want to be like, oh yeah, come to the camp, because then everyone would know that she was responsible for what she was responsible for in the end.
Fair, yeah.
So my favorite character, or what character intrigued me. Thank you for the reminder of what the question was. The subtle little.
I was like, wait, did I ask the question properly? Was I getting so convoluted?
No, you're good. So I liked TJ a lot, and I'm going to go off a little bit what you said, Allie. I think that I would have liked to hear more from her, but I also like that we didn't, because it made her even more sort of like intriguing. It was like what she was really up to. I want to say Scary Mary for sure is my favorite. And it's funny, I saw if Yane is still here in the comments, I saw her comment of like, we phrased it in my book club of like, who's the best character and why is it Scary Mary?
I love that.
I forgot about her, to be honest. Damn.
No, it was Scary Mary for me too. I don't know if I wanted more from her, because then it would have felt silly.
Yes.
But I liked how she was integrated into it. I liked that we got the little idea of maybe there's a creature in the woods, but I feel like by that point we knew that it wasn't that kind of book. So I wasn't already theorizing who it was, but I was like, oh, there's some like lady in the woods, like whatever. And then when we met her, I just liked her character because she was so committed to not letting her husband take the fall for something he didn't commit, because people thought that he was responsible for Bear going missing, because he was the last guy who saw him. And then she's the one who bailed Louise out of jail because she didn't want she saw what happened to her husband and she didn't want that to happen to someone else. And she was just supporting the idea of truth coming to light. And I thought that was a really great character. She was in it so little, but she made such an impact clearly on so many of us.
Mm-hmm.
I think as far as a character I wish we spent more time with. No, actually, I'm going to go back to this one. I feel like a character who is like, this book doesn't exist without Judy. I think there's other characters who are more interesting and who do more interesting stuff, because I don't often love a detective POV. And if this was just from Judita's perspective, I wouldn't have liked it. But she really is the reason that everything got solved in the end. She's the one who followed all of the clues and got the answers that she needed. And I think that was great, especially when you consider that this is set in the 70s and women aren't in that role a lot. She really took initiative and stood up for herself. And I liked her character a lot. The one that I wish we spent more time with maybe was Tracy, because I thought she was going to matter more.
Yeah.
That's Barbara's bunkmate.
Mm-hmm.
We got like stuff about her mom and then stuff about her stepmom, like randomly. And I was always expecting her to matter a little bit more. But I think that her character maybe was, because like there was some character in the book who needed to have a good relationship with a mother figure, because nobody else does. Everyone else is like treated so poorly or has a mother who's not involved, or for like various good and bad reasons. And that was one where we got a couple like scenes with mother like figures that weren't terrible. So I wonder if that was the intent of that. I'm gonna move on to, what did I want to do next? Okay, I think we need to talk about theories, because there are two disappearances in the book. There's the disappearance of Bear and there's the disappearance of Barbara. And I want to know what you were thinking at the beginning, like when you first knew that it was about these two disappearances. And then how did your thoughts evolve as the story went on and you learned other things? What did you think was going on the entire time? Walk us through the whole book.
Well, I also, just like before I even read the synopsis, I saw this and I was like, this is fantasy. That's what I thought.
Yep.
And so until the moment where Alice started painting the bedroom pink, I was like, okay, I'm going to stop right there. So yeah, I was a little disappointed that it wasn't fantasy, but as far as the disappearances, I wasn't too sure, but I had a theory that Alice and her sister Delphine somehow swapped places.
Oh,
I thought,
sure.
like, one of them killed one of them. I don't know. I was thinking that. And then I was thinking that like Barbara was somehow TJ's daughter. I was thinking all sorts of random things. But I wasn't sure. I thought maybe that Bear was still alive. I think that was one of my theories. But yeah. And then I've sort of thought it was an accident with Bear pretty early on. And I was disappointed to find out what happened. I thought it was a little too obvious that the grandpa did it, but he was a creep.
I was thinking this too. I was thinking like Sluter was going to be more involved. I was like, he's dating someone in this book.
Yeah, I thought it was that at first as well. Well, I had a lot of really off the wall theories that like literally have no founding and don't make sense. Like I was like, oh, Bear grew up and then he's Sluter. And I was like, wait, that doesn't even make sense at all. Like I thought that I was like, obviously that doesn't make sense. They're the different ages, whatever. But that was like, that kept coming back for whatever reason in my mind, that they were like going to be related in some way. I think ultimately I was in the beginning thought that Bear was still alive and, you know, out doing something. Maybe he was the god of the woods is what I was, you know, kind of expecting. But then as it went on, I was like, oh, well, it would make sense that, you know, Sluter got him, you know, I just like kind of accepted that. And then obviously we learned that that wasn't exactly the case, which I mean, one of my problems with the timelines, let me just really quickly, how we found out what happened to Bear. Wasn't that like the last time that we even heard from Sluter? Then he just sort of trailed off. That was one of my issues, that like, I felt like we needed some sort of conclusion with him. Like what, you know, what, that was neither here nor there. Other than Bear, I think I always kind of knew that she ran away. Like whether it was on her own volition or whether, I don't know. I just kind of figured that Barbara like knew what was going to happen if she went back home, and she just didn't want to go back home. So she like made the decision, because there were these breadcrumbs of like her saying, I could live in the woods for months, you know, like I've been doing this forever, like I would be fine, those types of things. So those little sentences every now and then just made me think, like, once she actually went missing, I was like, oh, she's fine. It's fine.
That's funny. I didn't like clock any of her mentioning that she could just live in the woods. I don't know why. I wasn't thinking about her. I was only thinking about her in the capacity of someone had hurt her, someone had taken her. So I wasn't even considering that. I think I always suspected Bear was dead and that Barbara was missing and that she was going to come back, because I just didn't think it was realistic to have both of the characters alive in the end. And I figured pretty early on that Bear's was probably an accident, just because I've been reading that a lot in mysteries lately, where I feel like we had a big trend in publishing where it's like the most convoluted ending you've ever heard. Like, yeah, the sisters took each other's identities and killed each other, and then somebody is somebody's daughter. And that's like so much happening in thrillers that I was like, with a mystery, there's this trend now of like, it was an accident. And a lot of people covered it up, or a lot of people were involved. I guess I did also think that they were probably linked in some way, though, and they ended up being pretty individual. I think my thought with Barbara was something to do with Sluter. I think my number one theory was that Sluter had killed Bear and she was on a revenge mission, just because that's like an easy pull, because... well, I don't know why else is Sluter so much of this book? Like, but I also at the same time, it's like, it makes sense, because that is what would happen in an investigation, is that you assume that it's the serial killer who's going through the woods, killing 11 other people. It's got to be one of them. So that's where all the police go to. And then it turns out to be nothing. So why bring him back into the book? Yeah, I think things make sense. I question a lot, but then I'm like, well, it also makes sense. So I don't know. I also had a big theory that it was like some big crime ring, because when you have a whole bunch of rich people have a lot of money, they have a summer camp full of kids, like, obviously, I don't know, they're doing something terrible to these children.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's not what it was. Because also I read that a lot in books where it's like a big cult in the end. So I think I'll move on to the actual reveals themselves, since they weren't always what we were expecting. What did you feel about the reveals? I think the reason that I like that it wasn't a big crime ring, or that somebody hadn't taken Barbara, and that Barbara, if you haven't read the book and you're getting you just want all the spoilers, Barbara ended up like just running away on her own. She got TJ's help, who was one of the like counselors, or helped kind of run the camp. And they found her a little cabin on the other side, and she just is living out her life there because she doesn't like her family. And I liked that that was enough for her to leave, because a lot of this book obviously is about women not having power and not having choices. And the fact that nothing absolutely horrific had to happen to her. She just wanted to go, and she made her own decision. And that's just the way it was, and she got to succeed in that, I think is great. I guess the other reveal is that how Bear died. I don't know if anyone else wants to talk about that.
Well, yeah, the Bear reveal is that Alice was drunk, and his mother, and took him out onto the boat, and he drowned. And then they gaslighted her into thinking that he ran away, which like Alice, obviously I don't like her at the beginning because she's so mean to Barbara, but I feel so bad for her. Like, damn. But I was a little like, I thought that reveal was a little lackluster just because I saw it coming.
Right.
And so much of the book had gotten this like mystery, and I was like, why would the family do that? For like, they could just say he drowned, gaslight Alice into thinking he drowned without, I don't know. I thought it was a little lackluster. But I do like how Barbara just decided to run away, and she was able to do that for herself. I just wish one of them would have been a little bit juicier, but that's just because I'm in it for the drama.
Right. We read so many thrillers that are like that, and then when you read this, you're like, oh, but what if it did this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. The reveal with Bear, I think it unfortunately like made sense for how I felt about all of the characters. But the actual like how it played out, I'm not trying to say that it was funny, because it's not funny. like haha. It's like the like thinking about how Sluder was just like in a cave, just like looking down was just like a little bit
Right.
silly.
He's just like, oh, I just happened to see them bury a dead body.
Right. Like
I got your little hand movement.
yes, like just peering down. But I think that like again, it's I have like two feelings about both of the reveals. It's that part of me wanted it to be a little bit more like exciting or a little bit more twisty, but also on the other hand acknowledging what this book is and like appreciating the book for what it is and what Liz Moore was trying to do. So it's like a constant battle because like I think that I wanted it to be a little bit more exciting, but I also do. So then in that sense, like I was a little bit let down, but I also like still liked it for both of them.
Same.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all on the same page. It's like you respect the book, but also it could have been more exciting. Yeah, that's exactly how I'm just like, I'll get over it. I think I just overall like the theme of it, so that's why I appreciate what happened. Because if Barbara was dead at the end, or if somebody had held her captive, or I know there was hints that she had a boyfriend. She mentioned she had a boyfriend, and so it makes us wonder like who was the boy? Because there's Jean Paul, there's I don't remember anybody else's name. I thought even at one point like maybe it was one of the men involved with the one of the grown adults. And Jean Paul was such a like nasty character that I was like, maybe he's involved. And I like that. I like that the book made us think that, because so much of the book, and even what Ali was talking about, like this is about the paint. Basically, Barbara puts a mural on her wall, and her family goes in and paints her room pink, which she would have never done because she's like a punk. And it's such a metaphor for like the oppression of the story, and all of the men oppressing the women, and the rich people like it's just there's all of these metaphors about covering stuff up and hiding stuff and not letting people be their true self, and like silencing people with the paint. And it's so much about women not having autonomy that the book even like suckered us into making assumptions that it was a man who did something to Barbara, and made us think about, well, it's her boyfriend she had, or even when it was talking about she wasn't visiting a boyfriend, she was visiting TJ. There was still, I feel like, the moment for some readers where it was like, oh, there's still a romantic relationship here, right? I was expecting it to be a reveal about TJ and Barbara, but it wasn't that. And it was Barbara just being her own person. And the book suckered us into thinking, well, she's a teenage girl. It has to be something romantic. It has to be something sexual going on. No, it was just her wanting her own life. And I think that that's really cool. Did you have, I have two separate ones, favorite memorable scene, favorite memorable quote.
I do have a quote that I underlined.
Copies, everyone.
I only tabbed one thing, and I wonder if maybe it's because I was doing the audiobook.
Oh, I have a couple here, but the one that I like the most was on page 10 of our text. It was sorry.
Thank you, Professor.
It was in Tracy's point of view. Oh wait, no, sorry. Excuse me.
Professor's
it was in Louise's point of view, page 56 of our text.
Got it.
She's hugging that Lee kid, and she said, these are the times in her life that Louise felt most acutely the animal nature of her humanity, and therefore they have been the most comforting. To be a human is complex and often painful. To be an animal is comfortingly simple and good. I like that one.
I do like that. I feel like there was more memorable quotes to me at the beginning. Like, I feel like the writing was more beautiful at the beginning. And then 100%. Maybe, I don't know if maybe by the end I was just like kind of reading to get to the point. But I don't think there was as many quotes in the second half.
Agreed. And then, oh, sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. I'm sorry.
Favorite scene? I did like the TJ and Louise scene, like when the whole thing happened with Louise and she goes to the camp in the wintertime and TJ's there. I love that. But I'm a romance girly, so I just wanted them to fall in love.
Yeah, I was like, TJ has to be in love with someone here, right? I was waiting.
Yeah.
I think and I agree that the beginning was, I think, more like quotable, because I'm flipping through and I don't really have anything underlined other than things in the first like 50 pages. Um, and so I'll just go with the one that I have on page 13, everybody.
Perfect.
It is Tracy had difficulty imagining how lost she would have to be before the option felt correct of like when lost, sit down and yell.
Right.
Her voice, it seemed, had been continuously decreasing since decrescendoing since birth, so that by age 12 she could scarcely be heard, which is like very like foreshadowing of what the whole book was going to be, talking about. So I liked that one a lot.
I actually think that's really poignant to think about. Like, the idea that, because the whole thing is like, if you're lost, sit down and yell, right? How do you know when you're lost? And like, how do you know when it's bad enough? And I feel like that's something that we deal with as people, being like, even with like Alice's situation, like, when is it bad enough? Is it when I was drugged without asking? Is it when my husband slept with my sister? When is it bad enough to reach out for help?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Precisely. No, exactly. And I mean, favorite scene, that's one that I don't know if I have one. I don't know if I have like a good enough answer for. I think maybe, I mean, honestly, probably whatever scenes with is is it Carl, the guy who was like wrongly accused, sort of? So I loved Carl. So anything with him, even though it was sort of like bittersweet because I knew that like people didn't really believe him. Like I liked scenes with Carl, and I think my favorite scene would probably be the Scary Mary reveal. Like, just to be a little basic about it, but yeah.
I love that you said you didn't really have a favorite scene, because I actually didn't write one down. I don't think this book was full of really memorable scenes. Like, as a package, it was really interesting and characters were really interesting. I don't have a scene that really stood out for me. I think quote wise, Judy was like looking into the family and she was getting all of these ideas from everyone of who was responsible for the disappearances. And on page 158, she says, rich people, thought Judy, she thought this then and she thinks it now, generally become most enraged when they sense they're about to be held accountable for their wrongs. And I just really liked that.
That was underlined too.
I love it.
Yeah, I remember that 100%.
And then I also like to get the reason behind the origin of the God of the Woods. That was pretty early in the book, but it was basically like the origin of the word panic was Pan, the god of the woods, who like does things to people in the woods. I don't remember exactly what
disorients them.
Right. I liked that. I liked that a lot.
Yeah. I also like the scene with Judy interrogating the dude. It reminded me a lot of Longlegs. There's a scene in Longlegs, and it's all I could picture, because then I started picturing Judy like that girl. But anyway.
I felt Bear's drowning scene and Alice screaming was very chilling. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a memorable one. That was just so sad. Anti-favorite scene. Lee's making out with Lee even though she just found out he was a statutory rapist. Wait, was that Lee? Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
She's like, F it. Let me just make out with him.
Oh, right. Because she's like, well, I moved on from Jean-Paul, so, oh God.
Yeah, she said something though. She's like, well, men always get what they want, and I've wanted to make out with this boy for so long, so whatever.
Oh, right. I think I blocked that out a little bit. Oh, I just thought of another scene, and then it left my mind. Hold on, give me 1 second. Nope, it's gone.
The further it goes.
The introduction for Tracy, when she was like, my whole plan for the summer was to open up all my windows, point all the fans at me, and just
like,
I underlined that. I was like,
relatable.
But now I have to go to camp. Okay, I think specifically, what could the book have improved for you? Is there anything besides just it being a little more juicy?
I really think the ending, like Judy did not need to go swimming to Barbara. We already knew she was
Okay.
there.
I feel like
we
that's
don't-
a common complaint. Yeah.
we didn't need to see that. Although I do like that Judy can swim. I don't know. I like swimming scenes in books. I find those
Fair.
fun. But even like not getting Barbara's point of view, just getting it a little tiny bit more ambiguous, because we really needed, in my opinion, was Judy to hear from Louise that TJ had a cabin up in the north. And then they both looked at each other and they knew what it meant. And I knew what they knew what it meant.
Oh, interesting.
So I kind of wish we didn't get that. But
yeah, I do wonder if it ended like that, would we have felt unsatisfied or like?
I kind of like feeling unsatisfied.
I know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like I didn't even consider that, and I am just piggybacking off that. Like that is also my answer, because like I love a little bit of like draw your own conclusion sort of like how people are gonna deal with things or how things end up going. 100%, I agree.
Or like then it goes. Okay, now I'm being a little extra, but like 20 years in the future, Judy's walking down the street and she passes someone who looks like it could be Barbara. And then she thinks,
yeah, something as simple as that. Even I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love how I was like fucking sorry.
I was literally just about to do doggy paddling. So like I was imagining that it's the same image as Sluter looking over the cave wall. It's like I was just imagining her like doggy paddling, treading water, having this really serious couple sentence conversation. And it's just like, do you want to be left alone? Yeah.
I thought for sure Barbara was going to get her shotgun and shoot her, because I was like, she's alone. Like,
or Judy Brown's in that moment. She's the last one to ever see Barbara, but
that would be good.
Peace.
I mean, I wouldn't want that, but that would be juicy.
She's like, oh, I can't swim after all. I got a cramp.
Gets a Charlie
staring at her like.
I don't know. I did like seeing them. I liked them seeing each other. I kind of liked the ending. I thought it was a little bit silly, but I do feel like I liked that closure, because before that, when they just mentioned the cabin, before I flipped the page, I was like, oh, we're just going to get the cabin. Like, we're not going to actually get an answer. And I wasn't fully satisfied. I was feeling like, well, is she for sure there? Like, what if someone's there with her? And so I did honestly like that. Though I do
think it was cute. Like I do like their interaction, because I think that it was like, especially for her being like a coming of age character, like it was kind of cute to see her stand her ground and be like, yes, I want to be alone. Like that was very cute. But I think when I first read it, my problem was that it was cute.
Right.
I was like wanting something darker, but
And how realistic is it for this girl to live alone at the age 13? Do you think she's going to make it?
Was she really only 13?
She'll be fine.
Yeah, I think she was 13. 13 or 15.
No, I believe you.
Yeah, they were 13, 14. But I mean, it's the 70s.
Yeah.
You can just chalk it up to anything. If it was the 70s, anything could be true.
Man, that would be the life. I would have loved that to happen to me. But anyway.
I think the only thing that I think about as improving is I do feel like character-wise, the time period was really well established, like especially like Alice being controlled by all of these men and getting married so young and not having a lot of choices. But I don't know that the time period felt really strong atmospherically, and I don't know what I would have wanted different, so I can't fully critique it, but I didn't feel like it was super set in the 50s, 60s, and 70s as far as like the actual description of everything around. Like maybe I would have wanted it to be, well, actually, here's my
That's funny. I feel like the misogyny helped with the atmosphere.
That's what I was gonna say. Like the only thing that made me feel like it was set in the whatever time period was the misogyny.
Hold on.
ASMR is my favorite. Please continue.
I just left a question off of here that I meant to ask. If the book was set current day, because like when I started this book, I was wondering why it was historical fiction, and I often assume or like know that the book is set present day as well. And so I think when I read this, I thought it was going to be present day and historical, and that we were going to get these characters in the past and now what they're up to. And the fact that we didn't just made me think, like, why do you think she chose it to be set in the time period she did? And how would this book be different if it was set current day? Like, what would they have? How would it look different?
I think part of the reason is because investigation-wise, there's no way things would have been the same, or they wouldn't have figured out certain things. Like their main mission in solving these disappearances was a dog, which is cute. But but I think also the 1975, that added to the atmosphere. I feel like camps in general are a nostalgic thing. But then setting it in the 70s is like extra nostalgic. So I think that really helped me with the atmosphere. And
also
then
thinking like that there are less resources.
Yeah.
For sure. Like in a small town, yes. But in the small town in the 70s or the 60s, absolutely. Just dogs.
Just dogs.
Yeah, I think it really, I think the main reason it was probably historical is because of Alice. Like, we needed Alice to be really under someone's thumb.
Oh, I feel so bad for her.
More about the themes, about issues of class and misogyny. I think it would be different current day. Yeah, it's just like cell phones. Like, Barbara obviously would have a phone and she'd be texting people, and like it'd be so much easier to find everybody, obviously.
I feel like, though, some summer camps, they won't let you use cell phones, so that would have been interesting.
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
I was thinking with the summer camp, remember when all of the girls and boys went together for like the survival night or
Like,
whatever?
that would never
fly.
No.
They'd have to sign a form.
Yeah. When they said that they have like a tour guide or like a whatever, a guide with them, I was like, yeah, duh. I was like, what do you mean that wasn't there before now?
Just like, you have to have one adult for every 8 children, right? Like,
yeah, good grief.
Current day, this would not work. Okay.
Did they ever mention them eating at this camp?
Oh, great point.
Because when they were going over, like, there was a whole chapter of explaining how things were set up. I think Judy was looking at all the different buildings or stuff. And then I was looking at the map, and there's like no cafeteria. And they talked about like the Great Hall, and they didn't mention like food. And I'm just like, that was when I was still thinking this was a fantasy and all these children were dead and no one ate. So
especially if we're considering like we're following actual counselors, like the fact that Louise never has to feed a kid a snack. She's never, like, your life is probably so revolved around food when you're in charge of all of these little children.
I just saw someone's comment, making children kill squirrels. Just TJ up on the hill, like, good job.
Right, yeah. They did skin that squirrel.
They didn't have to eat back then. It was a different time.
It was the 70s.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I think we've gotten through all the plot stuff I wanted to, I think. My second last question is, will you read from this author again? Or I didn't even start it with asking your history with this author. I'm assuming it was the first time you've read from Liz Moore for both of you.
First time. And I definitely will be reading more. And I think I'm going to go back and read Long Bright River. Because I think Barack Obama liked it.
Interesting.
Enough for me.
I think she had a book called, what was it called? The Unseen World or something like that. That was on my TBR like probably 7 years ago when it came out, and I had a couple of my friends really like it. I even think I own a copy actually, and I just never read it. I wasn't interested in Long Bright River, so I haven't read from her before, but I will. I don't know if I'll go back and read those now or I'll just wait for her next thing, but I like her writing, I like her plotting, so I feel like I would.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
Oh, good. Last question. Do you have any recommendations for similar books and movies? Anything that comes to mind?
Okay, I had a lot because this is how my brain works. So for movies, I kept thinking of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and Gone Girl. But I think what I mean is that this feels like it was directed by David Fincher. That's what it feels like to me. It also reminded me of Mare of Easttown a little bit. The TV show on HBO. It's like a 1-season show. So good. It's actually better than this book. I read it. I watched it one day. And then for books, I thought of Dirt Creek by Hayley Scrivener. It's like a small town, Australia. Kid goes missing. Lots of points of view. There's like a really interesting narration happening. And then The Push, weirdly enough, because like there's multi-generational stories. That's my monologue.
thank you for the recs.
Yeah, very good. Way better than me because I totally forgot about this question and I'm desperately trying to think of anything ever. Kayla, would you like to go?
I would. I was thinking like drama-wise, for some reason, I am thinking Leanne Moriarty because Leanne Moriarty is a type of author who you think you're picking up a thriller and then it turns out to be a domestic mystery. And
That's so good.
if this one worked out for you, Big Little Lies is one of my favorites, and it really is like the intricate going character to character, learning about everybody in the neighborhood. So that one might work for you. I have a few others. Riley Sager, if you picked up The God of the Woods and you wanted it to be juicier and you wanted like more characters to be doing crazy things, this one has a summer camp setting, and this one is set in like the 70s. And there's a woman who has been thought she killed her entire family, and there's somebody trying to figure out if that's true. I've still got more. If you too looked at this cover and thought it's going to be supernatural or weird or something strange is going to happen, I would recommend these two. The Other Side of Night by Adam Hamdy and Jacko by Aaron E. Adams. These are both mystery books. They're mystery first. They're detectives or they're investigating disappearances, and then they both get weird. Like there is something strange happening in both of these. That I will say, like, if this had ended like strangely, I might have given it a 5, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Same.
So those are my recs. Let's see if Sydney saw anything on her bookshelves.
Okay, so I'm gonna be a complete loser and just piggyback off the Leanne Moriarty, because once you said that, I immediately thought of Apples Never Fall, and that is the exact, like, I felt the exact same reading both of these books. Not in content, but just like the way the story was told seemed very similar in like pace. But I have nothing. I have nothing else.
What's that one about briefly? Like
it's the family that owns a tennis academy, and the mother goes missing, and no one can figure it out. No one can hear from her. There's like the family, someone comes home one day and like there's a mess. There's like, it looks like some sort of disturbance happened inside the house, and she's just gone. And then the whole book is like trying to figure out what happened to mom.
All right. I'm intrigued. I don't know. I haven't picked up Leanne Moriarty in a couple of years, but I think if I'm in the mood for something like really mystery and slow and a lot of characters, I feel like I could pick that back up. There's a lot of ideas in here. I do like the idea of the honeys. That one is YA and it's like fantasy. I think that's a great one, or horror.
Ryan Salaha.
Dasala?
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That because that one has like a summer camp kind of vibe. Totally. I love a summer camp. I really do.
So.
Okay, so the last thing I want to say before we say goodbye is just a reminder of the October book club. If you liked the pink drop on this one, apparently I picked another book with a drop, but that's the whole cover this time. We've got The Night Guest. We have This Is Where We Talk Things Out and Graveyard Shift, which are 3 novellas that are all horror thriller leaning, and we're going to discuss all 3 of them in a live show at the end of October. So that's going to be very fun. Thank you to everybody for coming and sharing your thoughts in the comments, and for Ali and Sid for co-hosting. Again, check out the links down below, please, to follow their channels because they're great, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.